Now, I'm going to try and do this review a little different than before. Instead, I used to do the show, the movie separately, but I'm going to try with this review to put everything together in one because it kind of tells the complete whole story. If I tell the story of the show, the movie, go back to the show, and the other movie, because they all tell one complete story of Rugrats. So let's begin with the TV show. Now, Rugrats in general is about the everyday lives of the babies, Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil, and Tommy's elder niece, or cousin, sorry, Angelica, and how they view the world as babies and an infant. And how they interpret basically everyday lives or misinterpret things as they would be the proper term of that. And the adventures they go on using imagination, fear, and bravery. Now the show, at first, I mainly remember the show from the first 5 seasons. And those are like the best episodes, the classic episodes of the first 5 seasons. And Rugrats, the TV show, is an amazing show for those first 5 seasons. They're very relatable, even as an adult. As a kid, you relate to the babies the most because of how you see the world and how they see the world is very similar, and your misunderstanding of adults would lead to fear or thinking thinking what they say means something else. And so it was very relatable back then, and still is. Even as an adult, you're like, wow, this is maybe either how my kids interpret things, or you find connectivity in the adults. Like, as an adult, I connect most with the grandpa, mainly because I nap as much as the grandpa does, but also because of his straightforwardness of how straightforward he is. And Dee Dee and Stu also are relatable too, how parents they are, and how even you can see either yourself or your friends in them, because I see Dee Dee a lot in some of my friends because of how motherly they are. Not in a bad way, but how motherly they are. They always look to baby books and all this and that to find answers, and rarely asking friends or stuff like that. There's just so much to pick apart with Rugrats, but the animation at first is very raw. It gets better with every season. The storylines are very good. Each episode has 2 segments in them that are different stories. They're all fun to watch, funny. So even as an adult, they're still pretty funny to watch. And they're very well done. The characters are very well drawn out. They're funny and cute and connectable. And some of the imagination in particular, when you see the baby's imagination, it is just beautiful and amazing and very wondrous. And the baby, the way they pronounce things, like Indiana Jones is like Indian Smith or something, like I forget exactly. But the way they pronounce things, like a compass, they call it crumpus and stuff. It's very cute and funny. There's no real character development, particularly in those first 5 seasons, but we get to understand the characters a lot and what they represent. And of course, Tommy's the main one, so he's always brave, adventurous, willing to do things. Chucky's the fearful one. Phil and Lil are just aggressive, and they just, bicker at one another. They're basically the married couple of the group. And Angelica, of course, is a bitch. I am not saying it any different. She's a flat-out bitch. And all that was great. There are only like a couple of times, maybe there'll be a 2-part segment or an actual episode is one long storyline, but that's like rare in Blue Moon. Mainly I think they did that was like the end of season 5 to lead into the first movie. And all the different, when you watch it as an adult also, when you see the adults, you see the different types of characters that they are too, and how they reflect onto the babies as well, and where they get their personalities from as well. I'm not saying blame the parents, but you could kind of see where they were coming from. Although the only flaw of the show is you actually, especially those first 5 seasons, you see how terrible these parents are. I mean, they're just terrible parents. I mean, seriously, the other parents leave their babies with Dee Dee and Stu all the time. They rarely take care of them. There's like, the first 5 seasons, there's barely any episodes where we see the babies at their own home. They're just always at the Pickles residence, and it's just like, oh my god. And also when they go out somewhere, they just drop them out somewhere and just assume they're going to be there forever. Like, I remember there's this one episode where they go to a hardware store, particularly a gardening section of a hardware store. They just drop the babies on the ground and start shopping. I'm like, what the fuck? Are you serious? You're just leaving your babies there? You guys are terrible parents. They get better in later seasons, but it's like, oh my god. And then when, after the end of the 5th season, we get into the first movie called Rugrats the Movie. And with that, we get the, Dee Dee is pregnant and she gives birth to Dylan Pickles, who Gabriel is affectionately referred to as Dill Pickles. And Tommy has a hard time with Dill. It's not only because he's getting much attention, but the babies kind of interpret that he's broken because he's always crying all the time. And they try and send him back to the hospital. When they try to do that, the cart that they're in goes out of control and they get lost in the wilderness. And Angelica goes to find them because they have her Cynthia doll. And the parents just find out that they're gone and have to go look for them. Of course, the news media is making it all look bad and all this and that, and trying to make a huge, big deal about it. Particularly one reporter that's voiced by Tim Curry. Now, and of course, throughout the story, the movie, you see the brotherly love form. There's some great musical numbers, great voice casting as well. A lot of cameos. I mean, a lot of big name cameos from Tim Curry, David Spade. I mean, even rappers are even in that movie. And the animation in the first 5 seasons of the TV show get better and better. The movie itself has like high grade hand-drawn animation for that time period. It was amazing, and it still holds up very well. The storyline was good. It was a simple kids movie and not really much adult humor, but very good. Even the whole family could enjoy it. It was fun, enjoyable. Like I said, the animation was great. The plotting and everything was good. And you kind of do get to sympathize, get the connection between Dill and Tommy in particular, and how, even though it's cliche and it's obvious it's going to happen by the end, but you believe in the building of that relationship between Tommy and Dill, and eventually the other babies as well, because the other babies just wanted him gone. But they grow to love him, and Chucky becomes less fear of him and sees him as part of the group eventually. And that was cool. And it leads into season 6. Season 6 of Rugrats is not the best season. I have to say, it is the worst season of the Rugrats, and that's mainly because of Dill. Throughout all of season 6, Dill adds nothing to the entire show. Absolutely nothing. He adds nothing to the plot. He's just there. He's just there. He just giggles and sits there. One time they put him on a conveyor belt and he moves, so they have to go and chase him. But even that, it's just okay. You have to just blame Stu for that. Stu was being an idiot. But everything else, he just kind of sits there and does nothing. He's literally added nothing to the show at all, and didn't contribute character-wise or anything to the plot or just anything to anywhere. And it kind of hindered all the other storylines because they had to add him in there somewhere. The only exception would be the season 6 finale, and the season 6 finale was like was pretty much the best episode of that season. But also they changed things in that episode, because the episode had drama, actual drama, because Stu's inventing stuff goes a little haywire. And Grandpa Pickles just had enough of it because he couldn't get any peace in the house anymore. So he's like, I had it, I'm moving out. And he goes to the old folks' retirement home. Tommy blames himself because his love of Reptar, he thinks, had to deal with it because Grandpa kept tripping on his Reptar toys, and Stu was building something Reptar-ish, so he thought it was something there. It was a good psychological character study there, and I was impressed by it. That Tommy thought it was his fault, or that it was Reptar's fault, and this and that, and Stu was Stu felt guilty as hell and was worried about Grandpa Pickles a lot. And also the relationship between Tommy and Dill actually grew and actually connected again. We got that connection from the movie right then and there also, because they actually comfort one another when Grandpa's gone, and you see that brotherly love, and Dill actually adds to the plot. He actually interacts with people. He actually, not like talking because he's still a newborn, but he actually interacts with the plot, with the characters, and actually gets into horrendous situations either by himself or by accident, and he actually contributes more in that episode. And during that episode, Grandpa meets a love interest because he gets injured, and he meets a nurse that they eventually find out they had a connection back in the old war, and they fall in love, and there's new life to there. And while Stu at first thinks about getting a real job, which was like, wow, Grandpa tells him, no, don't do that, stay with your stuff. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have found her. And that actually leads into the second movie, Rugrats in Paris, the movie. And with that, it starts out with Grandpa Lou getting married to Lulu, and then that's the end of his story. But they get married, and go off into their own honeymoon. But Stu gets a call from Paris, and in Paris, he is asked to fix a Reptar machine that he helped build for a play that's going on in Paris of Reptar at the Reptar land in Paris. So he and everybody come in there, and with this, we also get Chaz. This movie is more about Chaz and Chucky than any of the other babies, because Chaz is feeling very lonely, and he wants a mother for his son, and he's kind of been feeling that. And there have been a couple episodes previous that actually should have been showing him, Chucky just needing a mother and him feeling lonely, and we actually see some episodes where he talks about Chucky's mother to Chucky, and that all culminated in this movie. And Chaz meets the CEO of Rugrats, who's going to use Chaz to get higher up in the corporation, and she fakes loving him and loving Chucky. Well, at the same time, the CEO's assistant is actually the one falling in love with Chaz, and her daughter is actually liking Chucky and the other babies and actually interacting with them as well. And that's the whole basic plot of it, is just trying to find Chaz a wife. And he almost marries the CEO, but then he finds out that she doesn't really love him, and the assistant actually loves him, and they elope and go back to America. And while the ending felt a little rushed, the whole movie itself is amazing. The animation is just as good, if not better, than the first movie. The story was good. There was actual character development, which was great. We actually had human villains in this one, which was cool. It was actually story-driven. It was character-driven. It was a lot better than the first one. And the only thing that was really, really, really ridiculous, this is the glaring flaw with this movie, was when the babies took control of the Reptar robot, this gigantic, Tyrannosaurus Rex size Reptar robot, controlled it and burst into the church that they were going to have the wedding at to stop the wedding, and also fought another robotic monster along the way. That was the most ridiculous, over-the-top moment in the movie. It didn't hinder the movie, but it's like a flaw with the movie. It's like, okay, this is just way too much and over the top. But other than that, it was a really good movie. It's really, really good movie. I enjoyed it. And with that, it actually transitioned to season 7, onward to season 9. And season 7, 8, and 9 are actually a lot better than season 6, because we got a new baby named Kimmy, who is now stepsister to Chucky, and actually gets adopted by Chaz, and her mother becomes part of the family as well, because they got married at the end of the movie. And instead of everything being at the Pickles residence, now we go to the other babies' houses. Not everybody goes to each individual house and then they have a storyline. No, we actually get isolated episodes with different babies in their own homes. Like, there'll be an episode about Phil and Lil. There'll be an episode about Chaz. There'll be an episode about Chucky. There'll be an episode about Kimmy, or Chucky and Kimmy. There'll be an episode about Tommy Pickles at his home. There are isolated episodes about the individual characters, and we get character development. Like Chaz actually has a full-blown character development from season 7 to 9, because he's always been a bureaucrat, but he's just feels like he's stuck in a rut, and his new wife actually encourages him to do better. Not in a sinister way, not in a way that would benefit her, just benefits him. She's being a wife, an actual wife, and she loves him, and she actually wants him to do better. So he eventually finds a coffee shop that's run down, and he buys it and decides to run it. And he actually gets happier. Not only happier because he has a wife and another daughter to love, and Chucky, and he just gets better in his life. He gets out of his rut. He gets out of his depression of being a single dad, and he just becomes a better person in general. And that was beautiful to see over those last 3 seasons. Chucky gets better. He at first just mostly, he doesn't get at odds with Kimmy. He's just starts trying to learn his role as a big brother now to her, to try and, and sometimes she's not standoffish. It's just that she misinterprets it, and sometimes he misinterprets her, what she's trying to say or do, and it just kind of gets conflict in there. There's actual drama in the last seasons as well, which is very impressive, and something I wasn't expecting at all. I've never seen any of these episodes. I've only seen Rugrats up to season 5 and the first movie. These other ones were completely new to me, and I was thoroughly impressed as an adult watching them. And Angelica's still a flat out bitch the rest of the series too. But there were some good episodes in there. Yes, they were childish and child friendly, but as an adult, you go, there's some good stuff there. There's something that would make this show timeless and last, and that is very true. And that is true all the way up to the very end. Even the backdoor TV pilot for Rugrats All Grown Up, I remember seeing that when it first aired. That episode. That episode was really cool and really fun to watch, to see all of them in school and how they would act, still carrying some of the traits that they were as a baby, and being disgusting or cute or misinterpreting things and dealing with teenage drama. It was pretty fun, or preteen in the case of the babies, but it was pretty cool. That was pretty fun. And it was cool to see how Grandpa adjusted to everything and still being kind of hip and cool and young, as opposed to be crotchety and old as he was in the show. I never watched the spin-off show Rugrats All Grown Up. I don't think I intend to. But that one episode was very impressive. And the series finale ended on a happy note, because Kimmy actually had a birthday, and the adults misinterpreted where it was supposed to be. So Stu actually went to the wrong place while the other adults were at another. It was kind of funny subplot between them trying to connect, and Chucky trying to find a birthday cake for Kimmy because they think it's somewhere else in the building they're in. That's actually a goth concert. And it was all beautiful because Chucky had fully developed into his big brother role at that time, and was trying to help her get the perfect birthday. It was beautiful, it was fun, and in the end they did, and it was fun and exciting, and it just ended on this note that was like, you know what, the best is yet to come for them. They have their whole lives ahead of them. They're going to be fine together as long as they stay together. And that was beautiful. That was like a beautiful message. The show in of itself, I give 3.5 stars. The first movie I give 3 stars, and the second movie I give 3 stars as well. It is Rugrats is something that's respected by a lot of people, including myself, because of what it is. And seeing it as an adult, that respect hasn't gone away, and that it does have this timeless feel to it, even though some of the stuff like the animation may be dated to the 90s, going into the late 90s, maybe early thousands. But it is a show that is loved and respected by a lot of people, and even by modern people to today. It is a show that you can definitely show to your younger kids, and have and close that generation gap to say, hey, here's a show I watched, and something for you to enjoy, well, particularly at your age. And it is something they can enjoy. They may not like the animation because of how well detailed animation is nowadays, but they will enjoy the stories, the characters, relate to them as we did as we were young, and then maybe when they become adults, they will watch it again and enjoy them all over again, like I did. But it is definitely something for the whole family to watch. It doesn't matter if you're an adult or a kid watching it. It is worth watching. many times over. And when you watch an adult, even as the first time, even if you never watched it as a kid, but if you watch it as an adult for the first time, you can see why it's treated as a big deal. Why a lot of shows from the 90s, cartoon shows, particularly kid shows, at the time were a big deal because there was a lot of good shows, but they did something different with them. And with this show, this could have been like a run-of-the-mill show that started out great and then went bad and then slowly declined into cancellation or something, or just become too commercial to where it was just pinpointed only towards kids and just been like something for preschoolers or something, and just be like a kid show that everybody would ignore over time. But no, it didn't. It became something else. It became something more, and stood the test of time and became something as respectable as Hey Arnold, as Batman the Animated Series, All Real Monsters, Rocko's Modern Life, Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, Pinky and the Brain even. It's become as highly as respected as those, because those 90s cartoon shows did something different where they didn't appeal just to kids. They also appealed to the adults. They made it look fun and interesting and child-friendly for kids, but they added like plots and character development and stuff that adults would get and enjoy as well. And they didn't derive away from that. They stayed true to their form and became timeless. Thank you all for watching. Sorry for how long this review is. I now see that my counter is at the 21-minute mark, so I am sorry for that, but I was trying something different with this one. Depending on how I look at this, I may do the same thing for Animaniacs. I don't know. All right. Thank you all for watching, and have a good day. Bye.